relationships, be with people who are either like-minded or caring or empathetic towards us. And the more of these type of people that we come across with, the more happier we are, the more comfortable we are. And once these relationships blossom into fulfilling relationships, life gets easier and nicer. But sometimes these relationships do not end so well. Sometimes we are in relationships that the emotional reactions are pretty high, and we are not seeing eye to eye with our partners, with our friends, with our loved ones. And especially in romantic relationships, when we start dating someone and for a while we are getting used to each other, yet there's still issues that they cannot really be solved, and we break up in these relationships, we let go of these relationships. However, in many of these relationships in my office, I come across people who often enough go back to those old relationships. They are not happy after breaking up, or they are just needy of that relationship, and they go back into this relationship with some rare situations that these relationships maybe they work out after a second or third or fourth time that going back to. But generally these relationships are not going to be very effectively mended and qualified for a more deeper and more meaningful relationship. So the main question that comes up is, from a psychological perspective or a social perspective, why people rebound, why they cannot let go of a relationship and they bounce back into that relationship. I call them yo-yo relationships. They break up and then a few months later they're back again together, and then they stay together for a few more months and they break up again. I come across relationships that within the course of me knowing these lovely people, they've been in like maybe a period of 2 years, there are at least like 4 or 5 times that they have broken up and they go back to each other. It makes me feel sad because many times it's just self-destructive, and it's not really inducive to their lifestyle, because you're stuck in some situation, like almost like an addiction that is going to take away a lot of valuable time. So today I decided to prepare 10 points, 10 reasons, 10 ideologies or ways of looking at it, why people go back to these relationships, why people are not able to let go of old relationships and just be done with it and then move on into a relationship. Number one reason is fear of loneliness. We are, as I said, we like to be connected with other people. Without connection, we're not feeling at ease. We feel isolated. And imagine if you're in a relationship and now you're not in that relationship anymore. Somehow other people who are around you may not be as available for you, or you cannot connect with them immediately. So within that gap, within that time that you feel alone, that you feel there is no one to go back to, the familiarity or the person that was there that made you feel good to a certain degree comes first, and then you decide to go back, not to be alone, not to feel lonely. And this is just a reaction to that loneliness without seeing further, without knowing that, okay, this is just temporary. These feelings can go away once I get my feet on the ground and I go back into my normal self. Which again, if we don't have a sense of normal self, and if we are just needy of other people being around us, if we have our attachments not fulfilled and we need to have an attachment figure, we go back and we start over again. The second reason is our comfort zone. We are all comfortable in certain ways that we conduct ourselves. We get used to things. Things are known to us. So the fear of unknown and going outside of this comfort zone stops a person from going into new relationships and searching for new outcomes. So based upon that, we just stay within that area that we knew and it was working for us. So what would be the first choice? We would go back to familiar people. We go back to those relationships that we have at least tested. We know what are the issues, we know what are the ups and downs, and then we convince ourselves, you know what, it's easier to make this work and go and change this person or change myself and come up with some new solutions. And so the ideology of staying within this space becomes dominant, and then we don't want to change and we don't want to really move on in life to different relationships. So this would be just dealing with ourselves in a way that we are not able to let go of what is familiar and it's comfortable for us. The third one is jealousy and possession. You know, like children, sometimes we have toys that we don't want to let go. We don't want anybody else to play with it. Imagine in relationships now, as adults, our partners, our boyfriends or girlfriends, they're kind of dealt with like an object, like somebody that I own. This was mine. He is mine. She is mine. And imagine if your object, your toy, is taken away from you for any reason, and now other people are playing with it. So if my person is playing with somebody else, with another boy or another girl, so what would be happening? Definitely I will feel jealous, I will feel upset, I will feel out of place because I do not have what I had and somebody else has this person now. So again, as you can see, it's very childish, but it's dominant. I come across people who, you know, they cannot stand the idea of thinking that their girlfriend or boyfriend is with someone else. They start really following them, being upset, making bad accusations about them until they, go back to a point of their lowest, that they decide to get this person back no matter what, at any cost. So they start going back, looping back into the same old relationship because they cannot afford to feel the feeling of jealousy or feeling of possessiveness that is inside of them. You can see how deeply disturbing this feeling could be and why somebody may go back to a relationship just in order not to lose that possession or person. The next one is the common circle of people, you know. So once two people are hanging out, going out together, these two people are having certain social environment, other friends, other places that they go to, areas that they used to travel together or be in those areas together. So there are a lot of commonality of interest that is there after a while that you're with someone. So imagine if after you breaking up with someone, still you're going back to the same places that your ex is there. Okay, you hang out with friends who are friends with your ex, and then you're both invited there. It's not very comfortable. Okay, so eventually this closeness, proximity creates an energy or opportunity for getting back together. So that commonality of circle of friends and places that we go to becomes another reason, another cause for going back to this relationship. So I think if you don't want to go back to the same relationship, maybe your boundaries need to be stronger. Maybe you don't want to go back into those places, at least for a while, or you choose places that you go to. I know it's not easy, because then you may feel like, why should I not go and why should this other person go? And that happens. The choices are yours. You need to decide if you feel comfortable and you feel certain that by being in this space together with your ex, you're going to be comfortable and your decision for ending this relationship is not going to be changed, that's fine. But if you're not feeling strong enough and if you're vulnerable and you go back to this kind of situation, the chances are that you can get back into this relationship. And I've really seen this many times. I hear this from my clients who see their exes in a certain place, and then they start talking, and all the reminiscence of the old situations, they come up and they start going back to the same relationship again. The next one is our memories. we all have memories of places, situations, topics that we have shared together. And because of that, we just, we rehash on these memories. And we relive all of those good moments that we had together. However, there were so many negative memories that we bypass because we have a selective mind. We are just focusing on the good times that we had together based upon our memories, but the ignorance of those difficult situations, that becomes a huge problem. I have, again, people in my office that I come across that they have been in abusive relationships. They were insulted, they were attacked, and and they understand that this person is really destructive, and I don't want to be with this person. But then a few days later, a few weeks later, they start missing this person because they remember, oh, how good it was when she was caressing me, or how good it was when he was buying me gifts and taking me to these places. So for those reasons that they're from the past and past experiences of positivity, the negative is forgotten and we go back to the same relationship. And then guess what happens? Well, people are not changing, at least until now. So the same circle or cycle of events happens. So again, another time there is going to be insults and assault and disrespect. And then later on, again, a few weeks later, you miss that person's good attributes or whatever that they were providing for you. And then you go back to that relationship. And the next point that I want to bring up is if we imagine that we try other people, imagine after a breakup, you start going out with a few different people, but then first, second, third, fifth, and you see that, okay, they're not people around that you like as much as the ex. So what happens? The possibility of going back is really high because you do not find the quality that you want, and you give up and you say, okay, you know what, this is not inducive to my future because at least I knew what I was getting from this person, and now I'm trying these new possibilities and none of them are fulfilling, and why should I even waste my time and go for more? Let me go back to what I know. So you see the discomfort about trying new possibilities and new relationships becomes really burdensome, and then we go back to the old relationship that we have, and we know that it has some goods and bad. Another issue is the regrets that we have about losing something. If we have something and we've lost it, and now we compare and say, okay, I had this and I don't have this now. If I would have had this would have happened. So starting questioning ourselves, we start really finding ourselves at fault. What did I do wrong? Is it me that ended this relationship? Yes, the chances are it was you. But then again, before you go back into this relationship, you need to know yourself. You need to have self-realization. That's when therapy is helpful. When you are out of a relationship for any reason, before deciding to go back into this relationship, this is a very good time for you to know yourself better. Why am I going back to this relationship? What is causing it? What are my needs? Why this person fits into my neediness, and how I can maybe protect myself better in a way that I don't self-sabotage by going back into this relationship. A lot of times people are self-sabotaging because they don't see their best interest, and they start cutting themselves away from what they could have in the future because they don't believe in themselves. So once you have more self-esteem, self-confidence, maybe you wouldn't go back to the same person at all. But again, the choice is yours, and you need to find out why and how you're connected to this person. Another point that people have for going back to this relationship is sex. If the intimacy was so passionate and so hot and steamy, and after you breaking up you cannot re-experience that kind of a physical connection with somebody else, the drive, the urge, the adrenaline rush, the addictive part of that dopamine that gets secreted in your brain creates this pull to the other person that you had in the past, and sex was good. So intimacy is another issue that people go back to. It is important, but then again, how important it is it as important as the rest of your life and suffering in relationship with somebody who doesn't understand you or doesn't respect you, or vice versa? So that would be another question that you need to ask yourself. How can I get this type of intimacy with somebody else? Or maybe even if it's not in the same level, is it good enough for having a new relationship? Those are issues that you need to discuss with yourself about intimacy and the importance of it, and how this relationship could be just a trap because sex is good and now my addiction is taking me into this relationship. One other point that I want to bring up is unfinished business. Sometimes after the breakup, we feel we haven't said something, or we haven't, done our best, or we haven't shown all of ourselves. So for that reason, we may decide to go back to just give it another chance, because this time I'm going to be saying what I wanted to say. I'm going to attend to what he or she wanted me to attend to. So we are not really complete with this breakup, and that's why we may go back to see how we can make it better and work it out and work through it. Again, my suggestion is that this needs more of a self-discovery before you do that. Really realizing, have I done good enough? Did I put my best foot into this relationship? How this other person was dealing with me, treating me? Were the boundaries healthy and effective, or were they flimsy and broken and uncertain? So you need to re-examine before you decide to do that. And why are you going back? Definitely you need to sit down and think about this and figure out what is the reason that you're going back into this relationship before you decide to do that. And the last one, which is more rare, yet I still come across, and I don't want to ignore this, and it's important. It's sometime after a breakup, the two people mature. They're not the kids anymore. They learn about themselves more, and they do their own due diligence. They go to therapy. They figure out their mistakes, and then maybe at this time they can go back together. Maybe this is the only one that I would say that it has a chance. So if you have grown up, grown up is kind of not in age, is more in the maturity of our psychological understanding of ourselves, our differentiation from the family of origin that we come from, how we are different from what we used to be, and how effectively we're looking at life and myself at this point of life. So when we have two people coming up and then being more on equality and levels that they can see eye to eye and communicate effectively, then we have a better chance. And I'm fortunate enough to see some of these people in therapy with me, because they come and they work on the issues either before they get back into the relationship, or when the relationship is rocky and it's starting to fall apart. People who come to pre-marriage counseling or couples therapy, they are really smart, because they are avoiding all of these future hassle of breaking up or trying to see how long we can stay in this unhealthy relationship. Working on a relationship is really, really, really important, because relationship, especially for marriage and having a companion for the rest of your life, is the biggest investment that you make in life. We are connected with our partners, hopefully forever. We are there to support each other. If we are not fully sold on the idea of being together for the rest of our lives and being there for each other in any form and shape, then the idea of growth is not completed, and we need to grow before we make that decision. That's why it's important that you pay attention to your balanced position in life before you're committed in a relationship. This way you can avoid the yo-yo relationships that we just discussed. Which brings me to my consistent message to all of you: balance. We're all functional, yet this functionality can be at its optimum best when we are healthily in balance. That means that we are centered in our lives and we are paying attention to everything that's happening around us. Our physical shape, how healthy we are from our food, sex, sleep, and fitness aspect of looking at ourselves. Our mental capabilities, how we are educating ourselves, how we are putting good information in our heads. Our emotional way of being, how our feelings are processed, and how our sensations are taken into consideration before we make a decision. So all of these decisions are important to be made, and we are just careful into balancing our emotions, because with emotional imbalance comes havoc and a lot of these bad relationships that we're discussing today. And then our relationships are the fruit of our physical, mental, and emotional capabilities to come together. How our relationships are fulfilling and going forward is the subject of balance. Our environment is another one, where we live, under what condition we live with someone. Those are issues also. I was speaking with some young couples this week that, they live together, but then one of them takes care of the place and cleans up, the other one doesn't. This is a very simple issue and they may ignore it now, but imagine a few years from now when this continues, and then when they have children and then one is doing and one is not doing, problems are going to be there. So we need to discuss our environmental connections. Our partying, our recreational activities are important. How do we manage those? How much fun we have with each other without really cutting into our relationships boundaries. And our spirituality, without any say, is important, that our belief systems are at least close enough. At least we can see eye to eye, even if we don't agree with everything, but we have a basis of commonality. And our finances, which is really important, because it protects our values. If we're valuing ourselves and are valuing our relationships, then our finances are going to be valuable also. I'm hoping that you see how important finding balance in all of these are. Wheel of Wellbeing has a wheel test, which if you take it, you can see your positioning on the scale of all of these ideas, and from that end you can just figure out what you want to do with yourself in any of these spectrums that we consistently talk about. Please go to wheelofwellbeing.com and take the quiz, and then you can see how balanced you are. And then if you would like to get more information from us, you can join us at the Wheel Select, which is a membership only program, accessible to all of our programs, all of our content, many of our online classes, and we're building on that more and more and more every day to serve you better. Thank you for your attention. And if you would like to read my book, Balancing the Wheel, is a book about all of these topics of balance, and with exercises and practices that each one of you can make your own and enjoy it. I'm here to answer any questions you have. Please use our website, our social media, and any place that you can post your questions, your concerns, or the topics that you like to be discussed. I'm more than glad to bring you all of those topics and we discuss them. Doesn't matter what they are. Even if I don't know it, I'll research it and I'll bring you information that is up to date and creative enough for your understanding. Blessings to all of you. Until our next program. I may be off next week, but I'll be back soon. Have a beautiful day. you.